Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to a couple of replays in everybody's favourite class of vehicle. It is, of course, the mobile scumsuckers of the artillery themselves. This is going to be a pair of subscriber replays, and we are kicking off proceedings with Circle of Sorrow driving the Tier 7 French artillery piece. This, of course, is the Lorraine 15550. Not to be confused with the Lorraine 15551 or Batchat 15550, whatever it is, I lose track. This is the Tier 7 155mm gun on what is a rather mobile platform. And that's really the French thing. They tend to get, compared to other nations in that tier, they tend to get perhaps slightly weedy guns. And they're... But they move like stink. Let's be honest. So, Circle here has come over to the A9 position, up on this little hill here, and he is going to see where he can get shots on Das bad guys. Now he has opted to load the premium high explosive rounds. I think they're the premium HE rounds for this tank. Yep. The advantage that these have over the basic high explosive rounds is they have a slightly larger splash radius. French artillery, as a general rule of thumb, doesn't get a particularly impressive splash radius on its shells, because they're relatively puny shells in the first place. And there are two guys sitting next to each other. Well, if you are going to sit next to each other like that, it would be rude not to take advantage, especially if you're then not going to bring a fire extinguisher, you muppet. Well, there goes the T43, and the friendly team are 2 kills to 0 up. Now, on the one hand, you could look at that shot and go, oh my god, on the other hand, you could look at that and go, there is artillery in the game, and those two guys just sat next to each other without a care in the world. There's only so much you can do sometimes. I mean, that's kind of their own fault. And if you wanted a demonstration of how unreliable artillery is, that shot that Circle took on the T92 went miles over his head. Now, one small criticism of how Circle is playing this. This used to be a bigger deal than it is now, I grant you, but generally speaking, you want to move... Ooh, that looks like it did some damage. You want to move between shots when you're playing artillery. This is really especially true at, say, tiers 5 or 6 and above. At lower tiers, your fast reload means that relocating is perhaps more of a hindrance than a help. But at higher tiers, you want to relocate, firstly, because if there are any artillery players or potentially other players looking out for your HE shell tracer, then they can pinpoint your location and give you problems. There we go. But also, secondly, because it encourages you to keep your eyes on the minimap and to look at, well, where you can move to. Sometimes you're not in the optimal location to get shots on people, and many players will just sit there regardless, you know, irrespective of the fact they're not actually doing anything. So I do recommend, when you're up at tier 7 here, certainly moving, there's a nice hit, between shots. How did I know that shell was a hit? Because I didn't see an explosion. And the way the game engine works, it doesn't render for you, the firer, the explosion on a vehicle that you can't see. So that was definitely a direct hit. Now, Circle has burned through all of his premium rounds. So now he's onto his regular rounds, thus he gets a slightly smaller explosion radius, if memory serves. In fact, I don't need my memory. The regular shells get a 3.78 meter explosion radius, and the premium shells get a 5.16 meter explosion radius. That might sound like a lot, but it's nothing compared to some of the artillery in this game. Nice hit on the IS-3 there, and this is actually demonstrating one of the reasons why I think the French artillery are some of the better, and you put that word in inverted commas, artillery in the game, because that hit there for 200 to 300 damage on that IS-3, that's no more than he would have received from a similarly tiered heavy tank shooting him. You know, if a T92 had shot him, it'd have probably taken a bit more damage, actually, assuming it would have penetrated. So you're not seeing these monstrous damage values that you get from some machines in the game. More on that in the next video. Spoiler alert. So I think the French are some of the better balanced, shall we say, artillery in the game. They're not perfect. There we go, 226. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and they still have problems. But if I were to redo the World of Tanks artillery, they would be more along the French artillery model than, say, for example, American. You get some very, very big explosion radii. Type 59 and T92 here are duking it out. Circle is just providing his Type 59 with some assistance, but right in that spot where the T32 is, it's actually very difficult to hit him. And one of the things with the French artillery is that it gets a very flat shell trajectory, so it's not as if the shells go high up into the air and then come down onto your face. They tend to fly in a close to a straight line. And this has its advantages. Its disadvantages combined to T32. Again, only 400 odd damage. Could have taken that from an IS-3 or something. Advantage, the shells tend to be relatively fast. Disadvantage, cover is a right pain. It's very difficult to hit someone if they are using a little bit of cover, or the reverse slope of a hill, or something like that to their advantage. See if Circle can pick up this T29.
Ils ont failli nous avoir.
Alas, no. There we go, near miss, literally did 0 damage. So that's the sort of thing you do have to put up with sometimes when you are taking your artillery out for a spin. So T29 is still over here, which is an interesting life decision. I mean, he's in an awkward situation now. If he backs off... There we go, he's dead. But if he backed off, he would be giving the friendly tanks on the top of the hill potentially easy shots at him. If he didn't back off, eventually he was probably going to be overwhelmed, or, as indeed did actually happen, Circle was going to land a big fat one on his face. Switching now to the OI. Only a tier 6, but he's on low health, and given the difficulty that Circle will probably have hitting that T54, I don't blame his target selection. And there we go, there's kill number 3. So the T54 is down here. Circle doesn't really have any shots onto him. It's at this point that I would strongly recommend moving. Not you know, right over the other side of the map or anything. I mean, there is an enemy E25 barreling its way down the 1 and 2 lines. Hopefully he's going to have a Jagdtiger shaped surprise sometime soon. But yeah, a little bit of movement would allow Circle to get shots on targets that otherwise he wouldn't have shots on. And additionally, I mean, if you're closer to your targets when you're firing, your aiming circle isn't quite as big. So that can play to your advantage. E25, being the sneaky little blighter that he is, just executed the friendly OI. There he is, tiny little target. Whoa, and the ISU-152 just nuked the Jagdtiger. The Jagdtiger-shaped surprise was not what we had intended. So the friendly team got off to a very good start, but the enemy team are not letting this one go quietly into the night. They're putting up a fight at the end. And credit to them for doing so. Now, seeing that there are enemy tanks on their way, most likely to come over the railway line, Circle is an idiot, he's backing off. Doesn't really want to get an E25 machine gunning him in the face. And so just backing off. That Nashorn took a shell there. And there's an Oni on the other side of the railway line here, and the friendly team are just sweeping around. This should be a win now. But I have seen more certain games lost before now. Going for a shot over the railway embankment, very difficult to hit, as you have that dastardly third dimension to concern yourselves with, and indeed the shot was a miss. And now the A43 could potentially get close to that Nashorn and cause him some problems. Is he gonna do it? Oh, well, there we go. One shot into the Nashorn. There's another one, and Circle now doesn't physically have shots because these guys are too low down on the hill. But if the A43 keeps driving, and of course he doesn't, if the A43 keeps driving, then Circle might be able to save his Nashorn frame. And there we go. Allies successfully saved. That just leaves the Cromwell, sorry, not Cromwell, that just leaves the S51 and the E25 on the enemy team, and circle and decided, screw this, I'm going to move a little bit. E25 has been killed. No target over there. That just leaves the artillery. Where is this dastardly swine? Well, my guess would be that he's down in K8. I reckon. I could be wrong. But I reckon the friendly team probably hasn't done the most thorough job of searching that area. But no, he's up in A1 and gets executed by the friendly Borsig, and that is the game. So let's go and have a look at these post-battle results. Here we go then. That was enough for Ace Tanker. Is that Bruiser? Yep. And Fighter for 4 kills. 3,062 damage done, 4 kills, 1,108 base experience. Commiserations to the enemy ISU-152, Gordy LaChance or something? Ah, Geordie LaChance. I see what he did there. With over 4,000 damage, but still not enough for that win. Friendly Type 59 managed over 2,000 assistance damage as well, so kudos to him. And the friendly Cromwell. Bear in mind he was bottom tier there, that's a pretty good performance. 15 shots fired, 8 hits, 7 penetrations, 4. That damage count, most of which was from relatively long range. There was of course that one shot that took out the A43, that was a bit closer, and even a little bit of assistance damage into the bargain. Horrendous ammo resupply costs, because of course he fired those 5 premium high explosive rounds right at the beginning of the game. But with the premium account he still made a 16,000 credit profit. So, let's move on to our second game of the video. Time for our second game, of this video, and we are here with a familiar name. My name is Puffs. In the T92.
Let's go.
Tier 10 American SPG. The tank with, if memory serves, the largest gun in the game. Also among the least accurate, not quite the least accurate, but among the least accurate. And he is in a very artillery heavy game here on Malinovka. Tier 10 game, obviously, this is a tier 10 machine. And most of both teams are tier 10. 4 artillery on the friendly side here, and 5 on the enemy side. Holy moly, I feel really, really sorry for that mouse driver. This is a mouse's worst nightmare. And the tier 10 waffle thrower, this is a patch 9.13, 9.13, replay. And as a result, hello Mr. Mouse. The tier 10 waffle thrower is still in the game when this was played. It has subsequently been removed and replaced with the Grilla 15, because even Wargaming came to the conclusion that the waffle thrower was just a bit silly. So that mouse, despite having the best all-round armour of any tank in the game, lost 1,000 health to Puffs's... How big is this gun? 240mm HE round there, lost more health, probably to the enemy, to more artillery, and is now looking rather miserable on something like 1,000 health. He starts off with 3,000. So, it really does suck to be him. This is Malinovka, of course, there isn't that much cover, and when you have got this many artillery in the game, it's just gonna make any heavy tank drivers, especially super heavy tank drivers, mouse drivers, E100, Type 5, I'm looking at all you guys, it's going to make you very sad pandas indeed. But there we go. C'est la vie, that's the nature of the beast. Puffs has switched his attention away from the mouse, who of course now gets spotted, and towards another set of machines. Now the nice thing about watching Puffs play artillery, if there can be a nice thing about watching anyone play artillery, is that he does know that he has an engine and a W, A, S and D set of keys, i.e. he actually moves, which as an artillery driver is a very useful skill, being able to actually go from one place to another. In fact, there are many people out there who would tell you that the ability of an artillery piece to actually move is what makes them overpowered. But anyway, I'm not going to get into the whole RT being whether it's OP or not. It's not, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that in this video, that's not the point. My point is, it's nice to see that, unlike many artillery drivers, Puffs does move between shots. And there we go, that wasn't even a direct hit, but you know what? It was close enough, and the guy was only on about, like, 144 health. There we go. And so he died. There's Puff's first kill. That poor Object 140. And when you're on such low health as that, even a little bit of artillery splash is enough to kill you. So Puffs has switched his attention over towards this T10 and IS-7, waiting for his big old gun to reload, but there's the very real chance that these guys are going to move out of Puffs' firing arc. Or are they? Ho ho ho, Green Giant. And, well, that wasn't a direct hit, and we don't actually know if Puffs did any damage with that shot because the IS-7 had been stealthed. But judging by the IS-7's current health and judging where Puff's shot went, my money would be on, yes, that did indeed do damage. Now, there's been a slew of friendly tanks who just died, which is a little inconsiderate of them. And thus the scoreline is now 4-6. And with artillery, you end up balancing these things off. You actually want to be as close to your target, generally speaking, as you possibly can, because that makes your shots as accurate as they're going to be. The flip side is, of course, if you're too close... hello, Mr. T10. If you're too close, goodbye, Mr. T10, then the enemies can get close to you and just absolutely wreck you. And the T92, if you actually have a look at it, side profile, is I think the only tank in the game that gets positive gun depression, i.e. it cannot actually move the gun down past the horizontal. Now Puffs is having an intimate moment with the boundary of the map right there. I think he was just writing in chat. But he had just killed the T10, and the reload on this tank is ridiculous. As you can see, he's still reloading, so I think he can be a little bit forgiven. Scoreline has been pulled back a bit. It is 7-7 now, so they are even. And you can see how large the aiming circle is at a kilometre's distance. I mean, this is aiming right the way across the map. AMX-50B has been spotted. Those French tanks are an artilleryman's wet dream, but Puffs isn't looking out for him. He is looking out for artillery tracer, and there were 2 bits of it there. So Puffs looks like he's going to do a bit of good old-fashioned counter-battery fire. You know, put down the enemy scumbags. Unfortunately, the friendly team have just lost another tank. The Object 268 goes down, and that leaves 6 of them left on the friendly team. Puffs isn't going to wait for more tracer to pop up, however, and there is the tier 10 waffle thrower over on this side of the map, who just took an awful lot of damage from one of the friendly tanks, probably the other T92, at a guess. So we have got, on the friendly team, 2 actual tanks. And I was going to say 4, but that T92 died, so now 3 artillery pieces. And on the enemy team, we're looking currently at 4 artillery pieces and 3 proper tanks and 1 doesn't exist anymore, tier 10 German delete machine. And the enemy team have decided that this is an opportune moment to push. Not a terrible idea, but they do have to be a little bit careful because they only actually have 2 proper tanks left. The rest is artillery. And so if the proper tanks die, this is going to become one of those, let's say, interesting all artillery on all artillery games, and they argue about who's going to be scouting. Usually it's the French artillery piece, if there is a French artillery piece around, on the basis that they're rather nippy. AMX-50B is trying to come up and delete that T-54. He manages to do so, takes a lot of damage for his trouble though, and unfortunately Puff's shot doesn't even land in the same postcode as that AMX, which leaves Puffs in a decidedly dicey situation now, as he is reloading for an eternity, and that AMX-50B is bearing down on him. So he moves back a little bit. The AMX-50B will encounter the friendly 212A first, and so Puffs shouldn't be the first one to get blatted. Still reloading, because the reload on these high tier artillery pieces is absolutely absurd. And Puffs is just seeing if that FV is going to get himself spotted, so that Puffs can land a bomb on his face. FV215B183, of course, gets the largest non-artillery gun in the game. AMX-50B finishes off the 212. Puffs has not been spotted yet. He auto-aims at the AMX, turns off auto-aim, goes into overhead mode, and he is preparing to shotgun this guy. Because the T92 can't depress its gun very much, shotgunning people is actually quite difficult in this machine. But, thankfully, the AMX is driving towards him in a perfectly straight line, which is a terrible, terrible idea. And so Puffs just blats him in the face. And that was due in no small part to the fact that the AMX was playing that badly. I mean, come on, Mr. AMX. You know, if you're going to drive in a straight line right towards Puff's gun barrel, then he's just going to derp you in the face. So, friendly TVP just got squelched, which leaves a Batchat 15558 and Puffs' T92 facing off against a pair of Object 261s, another T92 and an M5355. So this is an interesting situation. 2 artillery plays 4 artillery. 5 minutes left on this game. And now we wait. I really should have prepared some backing music, background music, just to lull everybody off into sleep, I guess. So Puffs appears to be looking out for artillery tracer or any trees being knocked over. Of course, with no targets lit up, artillery tracer, not that likely. And his damage panel says he's done 2,500 damage. He's probably done a little bit more because I reckon that shot toward the IS-7 was going to be damaging, but we shall see at the end of the game. And we wait. Now, the Batchat appears to actually be going on a scouting run. I did mention that often when you get into this artillery on artillery situation, one of those artillery pieces will nominate themselves to go and be scout, and it's often the French machine because, well, the French artillery tend to be damn quick, often based on the chassis of light and medium tanks. However, of more pressing concerns, Puffs has found the enemy scout, Object 261, and, well, in much the same way that that Puffs managed to derp the AMX in the face, he also manages to get rid of the Object 261. Now, I'm not going to be as harsh to the 261 as I was to the AMX because he doesn't have a turret, and if he was going to kill Puffs there, he needed to basically drive straight towards him. However, he could always have tried to jink, give him a better chance of dodging that shot, and hope that his friendly artillery were on point, were looking out, and were capable of blatting Puffs. But when all's said and done, he didn't do that, and he took a 240mm HE round to the face, which, well, meant he lasted about as long as you'd expect. So Puffs is relocating, and he's found the enemy M5355. And Puffs' luck finally. Well, does it run out or does it not? Puffs fires, leaves the M53 with 4 HP. The enemy fires, doesn't manage to do much damage to Puffs, but then the enemy artillery who were paying attention to what was going on managed to kill Puffs, unfortunately. So that is Puffs' adventure over. We now have this friendly Batchat 15555 versus an Object 261, a T92 and the M53. Now, if you're looking at that Batchat and going, good God, he reloads quickly compared to Puff's reload, you have to bear in mind the French Tier 10 artillery piece gets a 4-round auto-loader. So the reload between shells within the magazine is something like 6 seconds. But the reload of an entire magazine is over a minute. I think it's 70-odd seconds. So, yeah. Puffs is trying to highlight the region that he's pretty sure he got killed from to give the friendly Batchat more information. Now, the Batchat has fired 2 shells. I don't know if the Batchat is deciding currently to reload or if he's keeping those 2 shells in the magazine and if he's going to go and try and hunt the enemy. Given the way he's going, if I were in his position, I think I would be reloading my magazine. because then I actually have 4 shells in order to try and kill the enemy team. Now we know where one of these guys are. My money is on it being the M53, because we saw that chap wasn't just sitting in his spawn or anything, he came to do a little bit of spotting. And Object 261 is also in the cap circle, so this bat chat, well, if it were me, I'd have been reloading, and I would probably have lost my team this game. We'll see what this bat chat's doing. Presumably he wasn't reloading, as he's going for these guys, but he's being a little bit careful about it. Spots them both. Aims in. The enemy artillery realise that their plan has been scuppered. And just in the nick, the back chat executes the Object 261. There's 2 shots fired, which means he must have reloaded his magazine in order to have a 3rd shot, which is there. And the back chat finishes the game off with less than a minute on the clock. So there we go, an artillery game that ended not in views from above, but in a relatively close range bit of fisticuffs. Let's go and take a look at the post-battle results. So there we go, that was Puffs in the T92, a machine that I've never shown a game from before, so I thought I would show this one. As it turns out, I was right, by the way. Puffs did manage to put some damage down on that IS-7, 334 of it. So that near miss ended up doing stuff in the end. First class mastery, bruiser and fighter there for Puffs. And if we look at the team list, he did 4,221 damage, got 4 kills and got 839 base experience. But shoutouts should also go to the friendly TVP, who did just shy of 4,000 damage, 3 kills and 829 base experience, and of course the heroic bat chat at the end. Didn't do as much damage, 2,660, but 5 kills, 886 base experience, and actually saved the game with the fighter, bruiser and defender awards. Commiserations, by the way, should go to the enemy AMX 1390. 5,500 assistance damage is a nice result to have in a light tank. 9 shots fired, 4 hits, 4 penetrations, 4 splash damage, 4,221 damage, it's all the 4s. And unusually, a respectable amount of that damage was from relatively close range, as Puffs was forced to shotgun people in the face. 2 splashes received, 2 enemy vehicles spotted, again unusual in an artillery piece, 7 damaged, 4 destroyed, travelled over a kilometre, and despite receiving a 40,000 credit profit, Puffs lost 16,500 credits because tier 10 artillery shells cost the earth. Even with a premium account, he would have only made a very small profit of 3,500 credits. Times 2 experience for that day, so 1,678 experience plus some free XP for Puffs there. Artillery doesn't tend to rack up a lot of experience because you're generally not spotting for yourself, but I thought that was a nice little game to finish this video off on, and not just your standard artillery, hey look, we're shooting from our satellite view kind of game. It got a bit more interesting towards the end. So there we go. Despite the fact that it was an artillery video, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and if you want to send me your own replays, upload them to whatreplays.com and send me the URL in a PM on YouTube and I shall take a look. I try and give preference to people who send in machines that I've not shown before, or maybe they've recently been buffed, or perhaps I've not shown a game from that player before. Do bear in mind I tend to run a couple of patches behind, so it might be a little while before your replay gets shown, if it does get shown. With all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoy yourselves, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.